Good morning. Today is April the 14th. It is a good day. Actually, it's the day after Palm Sunday, the beginning of Holy Week. The 15th is tax day.
That's true.
Yep.
Gotta get your taxes done.
A lot happening this week. So it is the beginning. Actually, no, yesterday was the beginning of Holy Week. And today we continue on as we look towards Easter this upcoming Sunday. But today, this morning, we are talking about a topic that I'm very passionate about. It's a topic that I love. I enjoy pop culture, and maybe even like a little bit of social media sprinkled in there. And so we'll be talking about all of that and more this morning on the Dear Church podcast.
Can we do the song that I put in?
Which song?
The Conversation soundtrack.
Oh, I feel like people will get us for infringement or something.
Yeah, copyright. But
Yeah.
we could just say it's for educational purposes.
Oh, you can get around that?
Just say it's parody and education.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. What's
Wow.
the educational portion of putting that up there?
Wow.
It sounds like a TV show.
That one.
Yep.
Welcome to the Dear Church podcast. Oh, that was weird. Welcome to the Dear Church podcast, where we exist to fill your ears and your minds with the study of God to see the world as disciples of Christ. My name is Sam Yang, and we have with us Pastor Eugene and Brian. He's managing all of the hoopla today, the technological hoopla.
John Zuki is in Florida.
Yeah, should be me. He's in Orlando for the Ligonier Conference with our retreat speaker. I would love to make a plug for the retreat, but guess what? We're all booked. And so you have to be on a wait list. So please, if you'd like to join us for this retreat this summer, please sign up. You'll be put on a wait list for now. And that's all I can say.
How's life been, Sam?
Life
I think
is
people want to
good.
know.
I don't think people really care about my life.
No, I think people know that your wife is about to give birth at any moment.
Maybe she already did.
And
At this point.
you might not be back for a couple of podcasts.
No, I'll be back. I'm almost certain. I'm pretty sure I'll be back. Life is good. I have been sick for about a month now.
Yeah. Like people want to hear you talk more or answer more questions.
I'm not really known for that.
Here, let me ask you a riddle.
Riddles.
At the end of one day, so
At the end
24 hours.
Okay,
I
sure.
could give you $1 million.
You're going to give me $1 million, okay.
Or,
And with inflation, that's not that much, though.
yeah, it's like nothing. Why even take it, right? But, or I
Yeah.
could give you a penny
Okay,
and double it every hour for 24 hours. What would you take?
$1 million.
What about you, Brian?
A penny? Brian, do the math.
Brian
do
would
the
take
pen-
the penny. Brian would take the penny.
Where are we going? It's 24 hours, man.
All right, fine. How about $1? A full dollar or $1 million?
Million.
What would you take? You take the
Brian,
dollar.
Brian
just wants
Brian,
everything.
just do the
doubled.
math. Just do the math, Brian. It's 24 hours only.
Yeah, if you doubled it every hour for 24 hours and you're doubling it, let's say 23 times because,
Okay.
the first hour doesn't count, right?
Yeah.
And so let's say for 23 hours, you're doubling it. For $1, you would get to 8 million.
Oh, really? I didn't do the math.
$8 million.
Maybe that's why I wasn't like a mathematician professional.
No, but it's like a personality thing. So even if it's a penny, it's only 80,000.
But Brian didn't do the math. He just wanted to go on this.
Yeah, but you didn't do the math either. But
No,
you
I
just took the easy route, the million. So
It wasn't easy.
It's a character thing.
It wasn't easy.
No, it's a character thing. Brian just wants
It was a risk for
the
me.
difficult road for no reason without doing any calculation.
Yeah.
And you just want the easy road,
Without-
like what's sure. Like
without
I know
doing
it's $1
any
million no matter what, so I'm going to take the
Yeah.
million.
But guess what? By the end of the day, I'll take that $1 million. And I'll
So
invest it.
no,
It'll be 10
this,
by the end of the day.
this all has a purpose. By the end of the day, why risk? Just take the reward.
Yep.
Brian is buy the dippity dip of the dip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of tariffs, yeah.
Speaking of the market, Brian's been buying the dips of the dips of the dips.
Yeah. No, Brian thinks he's like Wall Street himself. Like he's been touting himself as like the Wolf of Wall Street. So
I think Robert Downey Jr. visited Wall Street once, and then he sat there for a day, and then came out, and they asked him in the interview right after, he's like, "What'd you think?" He's like, "I've never seen so much high energy, low IQ people in my life."
Wow.
Something like that. Yeah.
but it's not about Wall Street anymore, it's about Main Street. That's what they say.
Yeah.
Or as they say.
Yeah.
But today we are talking about, actually, we're not talking about any of this, to be honest. It is in our minds, though. I've been thinking about tariffs all week,
Have you though?
just economy, just all day. Mm-hmm. Like, what is the economy?
I told you to read his book.
I got it. It's coming today.
Okay.
So today we're talking about pop culture because I think we are all engaged in it to some extent, unless we live under a rock, which none of us do. A lot of us live in very, very nice places of living. But talking about pop culture, talking about social media, how we consume all these different things happening in our world. And I just want to talk about, I guess, what is spiritually healthy? Because we're so filled and exposed to these different things everywhere that we look, it's kind of hard or impossible to avoid it. And so the question is really ultimately, as a Christian, how much is too much? Can we be engaged in this? How so? How much so? Was that a word?
Why is it called pop culture?
Why is it called pop culture? Because it's a culture that really it just pops out at you. Like,
Right. It's short for popular.
that's what it is.
Yep.
No one could have guessed that.
No one could have guessed that.
Yeah.
I think Brian could have guessed that.
No, I don't think.
Definitely didn't have that.
You never thought pop could have been short for popular?
No, I just thought it because it pops at you. Like, yo,
Okay.
that.
Yeah. So what's popular at the time?
Yeah.
At the time, rather. And so that's why I asked you what I asked you today or yesterday. What have you been excited about?
Just like I said, just tariffs. Not excited about tariffs, but just like what he's doing. What is he doing up there?
So pop culture now is more, today, if you say pop culture, what are you watching on TV? What kind of movies are really,
Even memes, no?
bringing in the money?
Yeah.
Like if we talked about the Minecraft movie, that's engaging in pop culture. You don't know anything about this Minecraft movie, right?
I do. Jack Black. We might go see it as a youth group. Not as a youth group,
So-
but yeah.
In Jersey, some of the theaters have said that if you cause any kind of rabble,
At the Minecraft movie?
see, you haven't been paying attention.
People been going.
This is like
What?
the movie to see to go crazy.
Wait, we need to go crazy.
Remember the reaction when Captain America had the hammer?
Yes.
in Endgame?
Yes.
It's crazier than that. Mm-hmm. People been getting kicked out. 'Cause
Wait,
they were
why are people getting kicked out?
Steaming it.
Wait, what?
They're trolling. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Really?
So if you are in pop culture and you understand something about what's going on and what's trending, then you know what chicken jockey is. If you don't know what chicken jockey is, then
How do you know this? I don't even know what you're talking about.
So in the game Minecraft, it's a very rare appearance, right? If you get the chicken jockey. But if you get the chicken jockey in Minecraft, people go crazy. But guess what?
Okay.
The chicken jockey shows up in the movie. And when it shows up in the movie, people buy like the largest popcorn bags they could buy. And they just start throwing it in the theater.
wait.
So you have theaters that have so much popcorn on the ground after the chicken jockey shows up that you could swim in the popcorn. And now I've seen this one video where this guy actually brought a live chicken to the movie. So when the chicken jockey shows up, he takes out the chicken, and people in the in the movie theater go crazy. I mean, if you don't know what chicken jockey is, you just got to look it up. It's weird explaining like.
But this is a
chicken
Minecraft
again.
thing.
It's a Minecraft thing, which you played. So I thought you might know.
Wait, but you've never even played Minecraft.
I don't know what Minecraft is. Yeah.
I didn't know any of this. How do you know? How do you like? Who's your source? Who's your guy?
But anyway, so if you've been, these are one of those things where when you observe pop culture, like I think people really want to be excited about something, and because there really isn't anything to be excited about, this really terrible movie, Minecraft. Not only was it, it was targeted for minors.
Yeah.
But now all these like adult males are going in and going nuts over it. Like people that are, in their late teens and maybe even early 20s, they're going in, they're going crazy. And so in Jersey, they had to shut down a lot of theaters. Like
what?
They would just shut down the movie and kick everyone out. And I believe even as of yesterday, some people were escorted out by the police in a Jersey movie theater.
What?
For going crazy.
What?
In the Minecraft movie.
Why are people like this?
I think people want to be excited about something. And I think that's why I was challenging you the other day. Like, what are you excited about, Sam? I think you could be excited about Chicken Jockey. I think you should go to Minecraft, the movie, and go crazy.
I don't know. Getting arrested is like a tough look. I wouldn't recommend
it. It may disqualify you from the eldership.
But if it's for chicken jockeying, I feel like it would be okay. No. I don't know. It's disturbing the peace, so I don't know.
This is a crazy concept that made it into our podcast.
It's one of the things. So my nephew saw it.
Oh.
He's like 11. He loved it.
Wow.
He loved it. He saw it with his friends. He loved it. And then, so I did some, I looked up what's so great about Minecraft, the movie.
Yeah.
And it's a terrible movie from what I hear, but kids are so excited for it. They're so excited because all the inside stuff that only Minecrafters would know. I don't know if that's a thing. Is it Minecrafter? People who play Minecraft would know.
Miners.
They would show up in this movie, like all the inside jokes, all the things about like spawns, all the even the vernacular that only Minecrafters would use.
Yeah,
they show up in this movie and they're so excited. This is something that speaks to me.
What?
But that's what pop culture is. Like it's popular for a reason. And what's popular now? Like what is speaking to people now?
Streamers.
Like iSpeed?
How do you know I show speed?
iShowSpeed, yeah. He's popular in China right now.
Yeah, he's very, very popular. Actually, he's kind of like international. Him, Kai Cenat, those guys are all very popular.
Yeah.
I don't understand like the draw of it though. But I mean, I guess, there are different avenues for the American to consume pop culture. One of them is social media. The average American spends 2.5 hours on social media daily. That's a lot of time. And I was just kind of wondering, we're talking about Minecraft, we're talking about streamers, we're talking about all these different things. But our audience though may not even be familiar with these things because I feel like our audience could be a little bit older than I guess that generation. But I was reminded of Philippians 4:8. Reads, finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there's anything worthy of praise, think about these things. And so this is Paul's encouragement to believers. And it made me think, how serious do we take this verse? And in what, how much do we do of this, right? Because a lot of times the stuff that we watch can be contrary to our faith. A lot of shows and a lot of music, a lot of streamers, they have religious themes that are not Christian. A lot of shows even parody Christianity and make fun of Christianity. And so I'm just kind of curious, what is our involvement in pop culture as Christians? What is appropriate? At what point do we say, hey, maybe we don't do this? Maybe we just completely, because I remember we talked about even shows like Game of Thrones, which came out a couple years ago.
Yeah,
Actually,
now it's House of
years ago.
Dragon or something.
House of Dragon.
Yeah.
Dragons.
House of the Dragon.
House of the Dragons.
Yeah. I don't think there's a plural.
There's only one dragon.
I think it's called House of the Dragon.
Is it
No?
Smaug?
I don't think it has anything to do with The Hobbit.
Oh. Anyway,
Yeah. Brian's looking it up. Or he's texting someone, I'm not sure.
I think he's texting somebody to find out what it is. There's two dragons. Oh, so it's the House of the Two Dragons.
No, I think it's just House of the Dragon.
House of the Dragon.
House of the Dragon. Thank you for that ridiculously late answer, Ryan.
Or the TV show that you and I enjoy,
Severance.
which we played an intro to, hopefully.
Yeah, Severance.
But that wasn't from the Severance soundtrack.
No, it wasn't.
It was from the 1974 movie called The Conversation with Gene Hackman,
Yep.
who passed away recently. And yeah, it's just I think that's what inspired the soundtrack for Severance, the TV
Yeah.
show Severance. If you've watched it, it's something that the people in the office and I have enjoyed,
Yeah. And so, I mean, even
except Pastor Paul.
he enjoys probably like history textbooks. No, he does, I think, to a certain extent. And he loves like watching like high school track or something.
You know, honestly, I don't know what he does all day.
He legit asked me, you know that guy that set the world record for mile? No. Anyway,
What?
like he asked me if I knew who set the world record for the mile. And then when I didn't know, he just stopped the conversation.
Why can't he just look it up?
I was like, oh, okay. No, he wanted to talk to me about it. Like, oh, you know that guy? And he wanted to have a full conversation. I said, I don't know that guy. And he just stopped. I was like, okay, I guess.
Oh man, he wanted to relate to you, and you failed.
But I don't know anything about.
You probably shut it down.
No, he
with
watches
your,
like U19 soccer when it's like
disinterested
Korea
like
versus
look. Your eyes probably glazed over.
No, but how am I supposed to know who set the world record in like high school for the mile? How am I supposed to know
Probably just
that?
like no, and why are you even asking me?
No, I didn't say that.
It's in your face. See?
Maybe. I don't know. It's really up to your discernment. I don't even know where we're at right now. But, you know, there are some things that we watch that may be contrary to our faith. And so I guess in relation to this verse, seeing the pop culture around us, how seriously do we take this verse and how do we engage in the pop culture today?
Did you hear his question? All right, fine. I'll see what I can answer.
Thank you.
You know, I think engaging in pop culture is also engaging with the world to a degree.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you need to submit to it or submerge yourself in it, but to understand some of it can be of some help. Not great help, some help. So if you're overly engaged and if you know so much about pop culture, like you knew every single thing that we talked about, that might be a problem. At the same time, to know nothing might also be an issue too, because we have to sojourn through the world. So you need to know like how to read directions, what, you know, road signs are, how people drive in certain areas. This is for your benefit, right? And so those are things that we got to know. To know what the most popular song is right now on, you know, on people's Spotify lists, that's I don't know if that's really relevant. But what I think the reason why I wanted
It's
to
Blinding
engage with this
Lights.
type is it by
By
weekend?
weekend. How do you know that it's by the weekend?
Who doesn't know this?
I've never heard this song.
But anyway, and so like for me to know and to engage is one thing. For me to really immerse myself is another. And so, for instance, if you ask me what was on my Spotify most recently, it's Bach, because I'm trying to listen to more Bach these days.
Johann.
Yeah, Sebastian.
Yep.
But, you know, to understand things like, you know, cultural references when someone says, I am Beyonce, what does that mean? And things like that. Is it of incredible importance, medium importance, no importance? Where does it lie? And why is this even a significant question? Because I think for the Christian, we are all engaged in pop culture to a certain degree.
Yeah.
We just don't know how much. So there's no discernment in the first part. And secondly, then if there's no discernment in that first part, then how are you supposed to discern on how much to engage or how immersed I am? How can you really discern that? And so those are things that I think, we should consistently have a conversation is, are we in it too much? Like, for instance, if you wear Jordans in every
Jeez.
episode of a podcast that you stream, is that too much cultural engagement? Is it immersion, or is it some kind of parody that you're doing?
Immersion, yeah.
Right? And so in what way are we engaging the culture? And, it's popular for a reason. Are we being swept up in this, popularity contest in all these areas, or even populism when we're talking about, let's say, people and politics and leaders and things like that, or TV stars or music stars like Swifties? That's a thing, right?
Yeah.
So is it okay to be a Swiftie? To what degree? And if people just so most people that I know would just roll their eyes and be like, whatever, dude, just let Swifties be Swifties, let people do this. But I think for me, I just want to know, what is the significance of this movement of Swifties?
Yeah.
And then, or Yay fans or whatever it is, right? Whatever it was like 2 years ago. And then if it suddenly drops out of the limelight and no one's talking about being a Swiftie now, I want to know why.
Yeah.
What happened? What shift happened? What's going on with the world? Where is this world going? And does it align with, what God has been showing us, when we're talking about the order of the world, or does it not? To what degree does it? Is it completely antithetical? Is there some, degrees of variance here? And so those are things that I like to look at and engage in. I don't think most people do, but even the Puritans really, really wanted to get into this. What is worldly? And I want to get that out. So they need to at least discern what is worldly, right? Lawn bowling, is it a worldly activity? So you wouldn't. So if you had to take your exam now,
What exam?
Your ordination exam.
Yeah.
Let's say in the Presbyterian Church in America.
Okay.
Let's say you took that.
PCA, baby.
They would ask you, do you have any exceptions that you take with
Yeah.
the Westminster Confession? Because
Yeah.
that's what you have to,
Yeah.
pledge to, or whatever you have to abide by.
The Sabbath one.
And a lot of people do the Sabbath one. A lot of people take exception to the Sabbath. And if you don't know what that is, it's in the Westminster Confession of Faith. In the Sabbath, we're not to engage in worldly activities. So
Yep.
you can't go shopping.
Nope.
You can't do lawn bowling.
No football.
No football. Nothing. So a lot of ministers take exception to that. And when they're taking exception to that, they're saying, actually, that's not a big deal. So we'll follow everything else the Westminster Confession says, except for the guidelines on the Sabbath.
Yep. Yeah.
Right? And so a lot of ministers do that. And so, you wouldn't necessarily go, let's say, food shopping for your kid to prepare for Monday on Sunday. You would do it on Saturday. And on Sunday, you would devote the whole day of spending it with the saints under the preaching of God's word in its study and meditation and singing. You would devote Sunday to that.
So I guess one of the reasons why I asked this question and this episode in particular is because people often, and you mentioned the Puritans, people often think that being a Christian and doing Christian things and living a Christian life can be oftentimes boring, like the Puritans. And therefore, you sprinkle in a little pop culture here and there to make it bearable. And there may be some that absorb or consume pop culture so that they can evangelize. And I think you're one of the examples where you take in pop culture for the purpose of ministry. But I would say that's 99% not true of other people. I think oftentimes people just take in pop culture because it's enjoyable, it's fun.
It's going to wash. So popular culture means it's what's prevalent today. It's going to wash over you unless you purposefully put up like a dam or put up protection. So I'll give you an example. In church services, should you have a dance number during the church
What's
Sunday
a dance
service?
number?
Yeah, I don't know. Like people do a little dance number
like
during
a
the
little
church
piece.
service. Yeah,
Okay.
Maybe an offering song.
Performance.
You do a little dance performance.
Yeah.
And because maybe your songs aren't necessarily reflective of dance music, you take something that has been popified.
Okay.
You know, maybe it's a Christian number, maybe it's not. But you take something with a little dance beat.
Like a Kirk Franklin type of jam.
Yeah, and then you put in a choreograph. You have someone really talented.
Yeah.
You choreograph a dance and you do it in the church service on Sunday. Is this good or bad, or is it somewhere in the middle?
Well, I could ask Brian because he's literally done that. So
Brian, is it good or bad, somewhere in the middle?
Brian said it's
Brian
pretty
says
bad. So why did you do it then?
Why is it bad? Why is it bad?
It goes against the regulative principle.
Brian said it's bad because we didn't do a good job. That's good. He said it goes against the regulative principle.
Right. It goes against the regulative principle. So what does that mean, to go against the regulative principle? Is it biblical? Is a more basic question. When is dance biblical in church service? And those are things that you would engage in, thoughts that you would engage in. Otherwise, I would say that it's going to wash over your service. It's going to wash over everything that you do, especially it starts from the pastor. The pastor needs to be engaged in it because he needs to know. Otherwise, these things are going to wash over and you won't know what to protect, what to put a protective wall around or to let in more freely. Maybe this is really good. You know what I mean? Like, you know, when organ music first came in, people could have been like, this is terrible. You know, I bet it was. People were like, this is terrible, you know? This drowns out the congregational singing, and that's the point, right? And so I bet people pushed up against it. Now people are like, oh, this is more like, you know, it's reverent music when you hear organ music.
It does feel that way.
Culture changed that because we didn't have organs from the beginning of time.
No.
So culture changed that to now when we hear organs, we think, oh, this is reverent. You know what I mean? So is that a good or bad thing? And so without that engagement, it just will wash over you and it'll just be the standard norm. Without that engagement, you're just going to have little dance numbers during the Sunday service and you're not going to think this is good or bad or medium. Maybe you'll just think it's good because, oh, you know what? It has some pragmatic value to it. It has people engaged in the service. And that's a good. Isn't it a good that people are engaged in the service instead of being bored? And so, yeah, let's have a dance number in there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think engaging in these thought like experiments and even these processes are important, not just for the pastor, but for even the Christian, because when you have that put toward you, maybe it's even in a church service. Maybe you do a little Kirk Franklin number in the offertory song, like someone's actually performs it, you know? And then that washes over you. And you're like, wow, that was really, really good. In fact, I was so blessed. That's the language that you would use. Is it a blessing to have something like that?
So I guess my question is, and we started off with just pop culture and Christianity in general, but now I think we've shifted towards almost like pop culture within a church service.
Because I believe it stems from, so if the Sunday service, like we've always thought from the beginning of time of all of God's people, if the Sunday service or the Sabbath service is the pinnacle of the week, it's the height of the week.
Right.
Especially after Jesus' resurrection, we call it Resurrection Sunday. It's the Lord's Day. The week starts from Sunday. And if that is the pinnacle of our week, then yes, it's important to do what we do in a most spectacular way.
So I guess my question is though, and you brought up the organ and it kind of made me think like, at what point though do we draw the line? And I know we talked about regulative principle, but adding the organ seems like it was a good thing. And today people still use the organ in worship. Even let's just say a saxophone, right? That wasn't always a traditional thing to do. The Puritans didn't have saxophones in the worship services, right? The early Christians didn't have saxophones, but now if we do put a saxophone in our worship service, at what point do we say, "Hey, this is we're not doing this. We're blocking ourselves from this. This is secular," versus, "Hey, maybe this is okay." And the reason why I ask this also is because I think when rock style contemporary Christian music first came into the scene, the adults didn't like it. It was the young kids that liked it. And then now it's very common for contemporary music to have rock style band music to lead the congregation in worship. That's
Oh, yeah.
different.
You know, praise leaders even in our church come to me and they know somewhat of what I'm thinking. So they'll say things like, I don't know if, like, because I know, you know, the trajectory where you're going, I don't know if the style of music that we have will last.
I mean,
The drums, are the drums going to last?
they won't.
And then I'm thinking, and then I tell them, what's the point of the drums? So I'll ask them. I'll
Yeah.
do a little peephole on them.
Yeah.
I'll ask him. It's
do you
like, what's the
think?
point of the drums?
Yeah.
And well, he wouldn't ask. He would be more like, what do you think? But
Yeah.
I would ask him, what's the point of the drums? What's the point of any kind of percussive instrument? What is the history behind it? And is it important that a leader at least should engage with that thought experiment?
Right.
And I think the answer is yes. And
Yeah.
people, so for me, when I ask a non-leader, sometimes they roll their eyes. Like, I don't care. Whatever you guys do, I'm cool and I'm down with that. And that's cool. That's chill. And some people are like, I really love the drums because, you know, when the drums were playing when I was a kid, it really brought me to God. And I was like, all right, then, you know, that's great.
Yeah.
So some people do have that kind of response. But for the leader, it's like, well, what are the drums? What's the purpose of the drum? It's like, oh, it's to keep meter. It's to keep time. It's to keep the
Dynamics.
beat.
Yeah.
It's to increase in the dynamics or
Yeah.
decrease in the dynamics, and helps a lot with that.
Build.
And you
Yeah.
could always come up with something.
Right.
And the question that we have always posed in our congregation is, or in our church is, does it encourage singing? Does it encourage singing? And if it does, you know, is it encouraging it in the right way?
Right.
So those are like questions that we have to engage in. And I'm not saying drums are good or bad right now. I'm saying that there is a more fundamental question to ask when it comes to Sunday. I want to really get to this because I don't want to stay on this too long. I'm afraid that you might, but I just want to make sure that we move.
Yeah.
So from Sunday, we need to go to the week.
Right.
Don't end this podcast on just the Sunday. From
Yeah.
Sunday, we need to go to the week. So if pop culture is washing over our Sunday, then the week we are not only being washed over in pop culture, we are now just swimming in it. We're drinking it. We're just in it. And there's no difference between us and the world. Sunday needs to be separated somehow so that our week is separated somehow. To understand what pop culture is different from engaging in what pop culture is, and it's different from immersing ourselves in pop culture and the things of pop culture, right? So let's say, you know, you spend 3-4 hours a day after you work and you come back on your PS5. You think that's not pop culture? It is pop culture.
It
It's
is.
a pop culture thing
Yeah.
to engage yourself and immerse yourself in the world of PS5, whatever game
wish-
is popular today. You know, what is it, Fortnite or whatever it is that people are playing now.
NCAA 25. I'm a Heisman winner. All 4 years.
I think you were good at sports games.
So I'm not good at sports and I'm not good at games, but I'm good at sports games.
Yeah, it's a thing. I've had friends that I grew up with that were not good at sports, not good at games, but they were really good at sports games. So
I'm
if
nasty
it's
at
like
sports games.
NBA 2K
Oh my.
or something like that, they would
Untouchable.
destroy me. But if it's like Street Fighter, I'd kill them. You know what I mean? Like what are you
Yeah,
talking? They
I'm not good at
knew,
Street
but then when I take them out, if we played basketball together, you know, they would just shoot bricks.
Yeah, I'm not that good at basketball.
But anyway, that's something else.
So, I mean, going along with what you said, I think if we, were to make an observation, a lot of times people will give up something pop culture related when it comes to fasting. And I think there's a reason for that. And the whole idea of fasting is you're fasting from something to feast on something else, right? And most of the times, the feasting on would be God's word. Feasting on would be something that is like we've read in Philippians 4, something that is good, something that's holy. And they give up pop culture to do this, which tells me, perhaps not during this fasting season, but outside of this, maybe you understand that you are consuming too much pop culture, and it's moving you, and it's blocking you from consuming what is good or what you think is good, holy, and glorifying to the Lord. And so I think oftentimes people know this in the back of their mind that, hey, maybe I'm consuming a little too much Instagram, a little too much of this, too much of that, but I can't get myself out of it And so I need this fasting season to get myself out of it, because again, it's something that people do. People fast from something that they want to kind of maybe distance themselves from and read the word instead. And so that already shows you that there's a lot of people that are struggling with this, where they are too entrenched in pop culture and they know it's wrong, but they need a fasting season to get out of it.
Yeah, I want our listeners to really engage with their minds. So I'm not saying, so what people can confuse about what you just said, they can confuse pop culture with the arts.
Yeah.
And the arts are something that Christians should be engaged in, because Christians have pulled themselves away from the arts. We're the ones complaining about Hollywood movies, but we're watching those movies and we complain about it.
Yeah.
You can't pull yourself out of the arts and then complain when secularists and non-Christians have taken it over, when you've pulled yourself out of the arts. So I'm not saying pull yourself out of the arts. I'm not saying pull yourself out of literature. I am saying that when you are engaged in pop culture, meaning what is popular today, that might not necessarily be good, or it might not necessarily even be the arts of the trajectory of the arts that we should be going in. So we should be engaged in the arts. You should read Shakespeare. You should listen to Bach. You should listen to something that is, very good for the soul.
I don't think people do that, though.
I think people do.
I mean, listen to Kesha.
I do. I think people do. I'm not the only one. But Kesha is still around?
I don't think so.
Okay. But yeah, Kesha was popular because she was supposed to have this incredibly high IQ, like 140 something IQ.
Wow.
But
wow.
And then she made like the most basic like dance songs.
Wake up
but
in
it was
the
very,
morning.
very, very popular.
Yeah.
Very, very catchy. But when we go with the trends, and we're being swept by a trend, or whatever the trend is, let's say it's a TikTok dance. When people were doing TikTok dances, like, a number of years ago, even in our church, I was concerned. It's like, why is everyone doing this TikTok dance? And why is everyone making their spouses do the TikTok dance? Is it necessarily good? And so I would ask my wife, you don't do TikTok dances? And she would just say, that's not my thing. And so she never asked me, what if my wife was engaged with this whole TikTok trend that even in our listeners, I bet, 90% of people were engaged in some way with these TikTok trends of dancing.
I love dancing.
And they would do these like little dances.
Yeah, I love them.
And it was a movement that swept the States. And it was crazy because everyone was doing the same dance.
Yes.
And they were just putting it up and people just loved it. They loved it. And so we have these shifts in culture. And like, if you've engaged in it, now what do? Do you look back? Let's say you did it. I'm not trying to judge you. Sam is here for that. But
I don't judge anybody. I love TikTok dances.
So it's not to judge you.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to do is, even if you engaged in these TikTok dances that went viral, do you have any reflection? Do you look back on it? Is it a good thing that you've done, or is it a waste of time that you've done? And if there is no reflection, I think that's a loss. I think you should reflect. And then, so a lot of people, I think the more common response that I get is, isn't that kind of a tiresome life? But I don't think so. I think sanctification is about reflection, and then so that you can continue to make sure that you are on the right trajectory. Am I on the right path? And the only way you know if you're on the right path is not only if you look forward, but you look backward. Because if you look back, you'll be like, is this the good path that I walk? Because if not, then repentance is getting off of that path and going on the right one. And so, TikTok, whatever it could be. I'm not just trying to pinpoint TikTok dancers. I'm talking about anything that we've engaged in pop culture. Maybe you are one of those guys that's listening that went to the Minecraft movie and threw like 5 buckets of popcorn on the floor because you went crazy when Chicken Jockey came out. If you are that guy and you look back 10 years later, is that a good thing that you did? Because right now, I bet you think it's an awesome thing. Because if I asked TikTok dancers at the time, is this a good thing that you're doing? Then you know what they said to me? They said, yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. It's great.
But I think the question is, well, what is good though? Because, for example, let's just use TikTok dances because we're talking about that. Someone reflecting on TikTok dances that they did 5 years ago could say, what's the problem? It wasn't harmful. It's not like I'm listening to crazy, terrible music that talks about murdering people, or I'm not watching movies, or
It's
or-
just harmless fun.
Right. It's harmless.
It's harmless fun.
and it's just enjoyment. Is there something wrong with me just enjoying something?
It's like bell-bottom jeans.
I don't know.
It's like a fashion that comes in and
know what that
out
is.
every few decades.
Is that apple bottom jeans? The
Yeah.
boots with the fur, that's the one.
Apple bottom, bell bottom, wide leg? They're all the same thing that describe the same thing. Because in the '60s there was bell bottoms, and then now they came back, but they didn't want to call it bell bottoms
It's
because that's
apple bottom.
'60s. They call it apple bottoms. But in the '90s, late '90s, they were called Jenko jeans. They were just wide leg. They're called super wide leg, right?
Is it the Billie Eilish jeans now? Is that what you're talking about, the wide ones?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
they used to be called Jenkos.
Okay.
I don't know if you know them.
I don't.
Yeah, in the late '90s, they were Jenkos. But then it's a thing that just kind of comes back, and people just do it. It's like, what's the big deal? It's
harmless.
It's the trend today.
Yeah.
It looks good. Not only makes you fit in with the rest of the world, it doesn't make you stand out like a sore thumb. You got to know like some of those things, right? Why do we wear the clothes that we wear? Why do we sing the songs or listen to the songs that we sing? Because if you don't do these things in pop culture, you will stand out. And
Yeah.
when you stand out, you look like an idiot. You can't fit in. That means you can't go up in the world or progress in the world. Especially true for the younger folk. The older folk are more like, how do I fit in the workplace? So yeah, maybe fashion won't be like the biggest thing in the workplace if you work in your 50s, but it is a thing, right? There are some things about culture that you have embraced, that you do, and it could be you just do without a second thought.
Yeah.
And I'm saying a lot of times what we do, hopefully even in the podcast, is we'll make you take a step back and have you engage with some of the things that we have been just letting wash over us so easily. So let's go back to the Sunday. Why is it bad to do a dance number on Sunday service? And Brian's answer was, it goes against the regulative principle. What does that mean?
Well, by regulative principle, we're talking about the fact that God has ordained certain aspects of worship service to look a certain way. I mean, whenever even we look throughout the Bible, even the book of like Deuteronomy, God always says, you're supposed to eat this here. You can't eat this over there. You have to do this. You have to do this. You have to do this. It's very, very specific. There's very particular ways that God wants us to worship. And so when we're talking about the regulative principle, we're talking about the fact that God desires to be worshiped in a particular way, and that's what we are to do. On the flip side of that, people will say, well, I want to worship God. Well, God didn't say I can't do this. And so whatever God says didn't say I can't do, it's free range. But that's not the case.
Yeah, I think one of the things that people forget and people dismiss is that when God asks us to do specific things in worship or not to do certain things, it's because the worship is directed toward Him. He's the one receiving worship.
Right.
We just don't give whatever we want, even to other people. Like, if my wife goes, I don't like chocolate, but I go, you know what? You should like chocolate. Here's a gift. Here's a box of chocolates. She's going to be like, but I don't like chocolates. I told you I don't like chocolates. It's like, well, you should like chocolates. I'm just going to give you what I want. Is that really engaging in a loving relationship? Am I really loving her with my purchasing of the box of chocolates? And the answer is no. Who am I really doing this for? And if you really thought about it, it could be me. Maybe I just think she should like chocolates.
Or you
What's
wanna
wrong
eat
with
it.
this girl? Or I want to eat the chocolates or something like that.
Yeah.
So when I have a little dance number on a Sunday service, like, who am I really glorifying? So
wanna show
that's
off.
the question. The question
Yeah.
is, if I have the drums in service, who am I glorifying? Who am I lifting up? And then, so that's why we have to engage with the Bible. Doesn't the Bible say we should bring our cymbals and the things like our instruments?
Yeah.
Right? Shouldn't we bring them into the worship service? We see that in the Psalms. So what's wrong with the drums? Right? Shouldn't we bring our cymbals? Isn't the cymbals part of the drums?
Right.
So as people engage in that kind of dialogue and back and forth there, and I think
Right.
that's awesome. Engage in that, right? Because there's a purpose to it. So if I'll go back to my wife, this is true by the way, she does not like chocolates, so she won't eat them.
Not even Ferrero Rochers?
No, not even for
That's the
Rochers.
goat of chocolates.
Yeah, I could get her like the best. Like I think she likes certain types of chocolates sometimes.
Like a Dubai chocolate.
you
is
know
popular right
those
now.
Japanese ones that you have to refrigerate. What are they called? Royce. Is
I
that not
have
Japanese?
No idea what that is.
Royce chocolate. You don't know?
No.
ROYCE.
I
Okay.
love chocolate, by the way.
But yeah, like she'll
Favorite,
eat that
yeah.
once in a blue moon. But if this is something that she does not want, and she likes certain other things, like she likes flowers, so I'll get her flowers. If that's what she likes, and I say, and then she tells me, and I do it for her, even I'm telling you, even on that horizontal level between relationships between humans, we have that kind of understanding. But with God, all of a sudden, people are like, who cares? As long as my heart is there, shouldn't that matter? Because God really cares about the heart. And the answer is,
Right.
that's crazy. Isn't that a crazy thing to think when I'm engaged with, even on the horizontal level? Well, my heart is really there for my wife, and I really like chocolates, so I want to give her chocolates. But I'm like, but she doesn't like chocolates. What's
Yeah,
the point?
yeah.
And so God has engaged with us, and He says, I like this, I don't like this. I like this, I don't like this. Not only is that so rude and arrogant for us to think that we could give God whatever we want, like a little dance number, but we don't care about what God likes, meaning we don't care why He has said no to chocolates. So when I think about it, I say, oh, so I'll ask her, why don't you like chocolates? You know what? It never really did a thing for me. I'm not a sweets kind of person, and she isn't. So she's not a really kind of. So what does that show me when she says she doesn't want chocolates? It shows me her character, her personality, what she likes, what she doesn't like, what kind of person she is. When God says, I want this, I don't want this, instead of us engaging in that thought process, saying, oh, God likes this. This is a part of His character.
Yeah.
And when you see worship and He puts these things, we understand and the very basic is He loves a certain kind of order.
Yeah.
1 Corinthians 14, God is a God of order, not of chaos. In worship, He wants order. Everybody's not supposed to speak out of turn. Women are not supposed to speak. Those are like these parts of order that He put out in 1 Corinthians 14 because God is a God of order. And so He puts this order into place, especially in His worship service, which then goes out to the world. But instead of that happening, we're doing the other thing. We see what's popular in culture today, and we're bringing it into the worship culture, into worship. So, and then we're trying to, make that make sense. So, well, doesn't the Bible say that in, Zephaniah 3:17, God exalts over us? That's kind of a dance.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
can't
yeah.
we put in dance in the
People
worship
say
because
that.
God's dancing over us? What's the big problem about dancing, right? So we'll try to flip it around and bring the pop culture into the
David
service
danced.
and then rationalize that and say, God should like this. I think there's a big problem with that kind of thinking because when you think like that, it's not about God anymore. It's about you and your well intent. And you know the popular saying, right? The road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah. And I think there also has to be a distinction made between private worship and corporate worship because there is a difference in the Bible. So, for example, even David dancing naked, no less, was in private.
He wasn't naked.
I think he became unclothed.
I mean, he showed some of his private parts.
Some of his private parts.
came to.
That is about
view.
as unclothed as you can get. I don't care about
I
seeing
mean, what
two
if you were
kneecaps.
like today? What if you're dancing in your tidy whities?
No.
Is that
I've
is
never.
that
I've never.
unclothed? You know what I mean? You could
If it falls off, then it's unclothed.
you're dancing really. You're so excited.
No, so what I'm trying to say is, regardless of whether you are clothed or not, there's a distinction between corporate solemn gathering and private worship. And I think a lot of times people will take this private worship aspect and try to bring it into the solemn assembly, but there is a distinction.
Yeah, and secondly, I do not think David was doing a choreographed dance number. I think he was just
No.
dancing his heart out. He was so happy.
Which is cool, yeah,
Yeah.
which is cool. So Brian does that. I get it, it's cool, but don't do that here. Do that at home.
Brian has an issue with what you just said. He doesn't know exactly how to articulate it, but I can see his brain is it's churning.
No, Brian
like
is my
butter.
pop. Yeah, he always trying to.
When the butter comes out, he'll say something.
The butter?
You churn butter. You got to keep on churning that cream until it becomes butter,
Never done it.
and then take out the buttermilk.
I've actually been really into Kerrygold lately. I don't know if that really is relevant, but
It's on sale at Costco right now. It's true though.
but so can I just go back to, I guess, just like
Yeah, go back.
so. The question still is though, and I think the reason why I'm going back to this is because I think people may be wondering this as you have brought this up before, but as a Christian, if certain aspects of pop culture are not harmful, what's the problem? Like, what is the big deal? Why are you making such a big deal out of me doing a fun little TikTok dance 5 years ago? I'm reflecting on it. Was it a waste of time in the grand scheme of things? Like, could I have been praying? Sure. But it was just enjoyment. Can I not enjoy anything then? Like, what? Like, how do we think through that?
Yeah, when J.S. Bach was writing his music, this is something that is very well known. And he would write in his compositions SDG. And what does SDG stand for?
Soli Deo Gloria.
So everything that he wrote was to the glory of God. He understood that. His music became pop culture, meaning it really permeated the entire population of the people listening to his music. Mm-hmm. Not just then, but for hundreds of years to come follow, right? Even right now, you would say a lot of people would think the pinnacle of music was from when Bach wrote, his stuff. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people find him to be their favorite composer and things like that.
Yeah.
Even more than Mozart and Beethoven, and things like that. Well, they're all great. They're all great.
Yeah.
Handel, things like that. But the reason why I wanted to bring this up is people are always like, what's wrong with that?
Right.
And I want to ask another question is, where is its origin? If the origin came from SDG and then it flows to culture and that becomes pop culture, that's great. Where did these TikTok dances come from? Where is its origin? Is it from your Sunday service? When you do a little number and you do like your little elbow swings and things like that, and then you're like, oh, that's so cute and so, so niche.
Is that how you pronounce that word? I thought it was niche.
Yeah, I like niche. But, I hope it becomes something. It becomes a thing like fetch. Yeah. But you find your niche, right?
Yeah.
It's like, this is it. And people don't engage even in that 2-second thought, and they just do it. And I think that's a problem for Christians, because just like what you've read from Philippians, we are to engage our minds in everything. We're never to be inebriated, dulled down. We're always supposed to be alert. The Bible is constantly telling us to be sober-minded, constantly telling us to be alert. But when you're not and you just let things wash over you, then you are like, the weed just being blown back and forth wherever the wind blows.
Tumbleweed.
You're just going to go. And that's not what a Christian is. A Christian is supposed to have his or her feet firmly planted in the Word. We're supposed to be rooted in the rock of our salvation, the solid rock, which is Jesus Christ. That means even though the winds blow and the storms will come, boom, there we are standing. And that we're supposed to be a testament to the world. But when you're just being swayed back and forth by whatever culture is dictating, not only are you not going to affect culture, you're just going to let culture affect you. And when you just let culture affect you, you know that because Christians aren't affecting the culture, you're just going to be swayed. You're not going to be a Christian because you're just going to go with what pop culture dictates. I think that's a big problem, especially for young Christians today. So I think I want to start off with what excites you today. If nothing excites you, I think that's a problem in itself, and I want to talk about that. But if something does excite you, why does it excite you? And did we engage in that 2-second thought of what is its origin? What is the origin of this? What is the origin of that? Where did this come from? Why is it so popular today? And so I want to talk about that. I want to think about stuff like that. If everyone's wearing apple bottom jeans or bell bottoms,
Why?
I want to know why. And if you're like, well, that's just dumb, it's just in. It's like, why? Who made it popular? Why is it a thing? Because guess what? Even when Balenciaga was very popular and people are like, this is just so artistic. When people started to look into it, people realized that, hey, the main designer for Balenciaga was a Satanist.
Yep.
And they had these things where they had kids with panda eyes, and that's a symbolism of child rape. That's what Balenciaga was promoting. But you're just going with the pop culture and you're saying this is just what art is, and you don't even engage in that 2-second thought. And guess what? Whether you know it or not, now you are either promoting or letting things go or just accepting child rape. That is crazy to me. Because we don't even want to engage in this 2-second thought, I think that's a big issue. And so what's the other flip side? The flip side that's also wrong is I think what you're kind of struggling with, the one I want to talk to you about. This could be a personal counseling session for Sam.
Oh, thank you. For free.
It's we don't want to engage in anything. We're just nothing excites us anymore. And we're just blasé about all things.
So I guess the question is though, and the way that you're making it sound like is we have to know the origin of everything. I don't know the origin of Instagram. I don't know the origin of my favorite rap song, whatever it might be. Are you saying then that I have to know the life goal of every single rapper artist that I listen to, every single TV producer of the show that I watch? Like, I don't know if it's SDG. Like, I don't know if they wrote this to glorify God or to glorify themselves. Are you? It almost feels like you're saying I can't even enjoy anything anymore.
Yeah, that's not what I'm saying. I think people can enjoy on a very shallow, superficial level to certain degrees because that's where we are. You know what I mean? But if you start enjoying something a lot, wouldn't you want to naturally know where it's from? So, case in point, we talked about the show that we've enjoyed recently called Severance. And they have this really eerie, very, very simple, fundamental music that they play. It's just like one-handed piano, right? And then I wanted to do some research on that. Who wrote this? What inspired them? And what I got to was, because I was messing with AI, what I got to was it's very, very similar to the song we just played for our intro, which I'm trying to call back to now. It's from the 1974 movie with Gene Hackman called The Conversation. And if you look back to that, it's this whole back and forth, and the mind is all schizo. It's all like broken up. And that's exactly what the show Severance is about. It's about the splitting of the mind.
Yeah.
And so those are things like, so it's like it's inspired from not just the music from this movie. The whole show is inspired, maybe to some degree, this movie called The Conversation in 1974. That actually helps us understand maybe why we like something or why we shouldn't like something to a good degree. Now, I'm not saying everyone has to do that, but I think it's good that one person does. When no one does, that's an issue. So you're saying, well, do I need to find out about everything at all times?
Yeah.
And I'm saying for the Christian, the answer has to be in some level, yes, because if you start enjoying something to a great degree, it is your responsibility to find out where this is from because you want to know where it's going. Does that make sense?
I see. Okay.
You're not just supposed to be swept up by the current trends and just go with it.
Yeah.
You're like, where is this stream coming from? And where that's going to help me determine where it's going to go, right? So if you really want to know how Severance is going to end, just watch the movie. No, just kidding. It may or may not end that way.
Yeah.
But it is kind of a freaky movie. And then so, you kind of can tell it's like a freaky show. And so those are things that you could kind of, at least help embrace for.
Could we also think, just like calories, whenever you consume anything, regardless of whether you think it is harmful or not at the time, there is always a consequence. Always. Whether it's good or bad, slightly good, slightly bad, right? It always either draws us nearer to God or further away, right? Is that a good way of thinking about it?
Yeah, this is what Christ says. You know what makes a man unclean?
It's what comes out of his mouth, heart.
Yeah. And so when we consume something, we actually expel it.
Yeah.
And what we are expelling is what we need to watch out.
Yeah.
What are we expelling? And it's especially true because what we start to consume, that may not necessarily corrupt, but what we start to consume may be, converted to this energy that is actually harmful to others.
Yeah. And I think people can attest to that. I think when people listen to certain types of music, they get into a certain type of mood.
Yeah, I think that's my problem with rap. I mean, I don't know if you really want to get into it.
What about hard
problem,
metal? Hard metal.
hard metal, like satanic metal and things like that.
That's
and
tough, yeah.
That's rough. And, I think there's there's a group called Red, R-E-D.
Yeah.
That wanted to change some of that in its genre. So they're more Christian kind of themed. So if you really like heavy metal, but the point is, where did heavy metal come from? Where did rock come from? And what is the purpose of it? Rock came from, and this is a little bit about the talk that I was going to give the past Monday, but because our toilets were broken, the water was shut off.
For a praise
praise
team
team, we
meeting.
didn't do it. So this is a little bit about the talk
Yeah.
that I was going to give. But the origins of rock was to be not just simply contrarian, but to be rebellious against
yes.
order.
Yep.
That's the origin of rock. And so when people are like, "Oh, I want to make Christian rock," isn't Christian rock good? It's just music. That is too simplistic. You have to understand the origin, because this is the trajectory where this was placed, and you're saying, "Oh, I could just point it to God." I don't think so. I don't think it's that easy. And so I'm not saying Christian rock is bad. I am saying if you think about it too simplistically or too reductively, then you will be swept up because you have not thought about it. You don't know how much you have to swim against the tide to get to where you're going once you go into the stream. So if Christian, let's say rock was specifically anti-God, and you're like, I'm going to make this God, then now you're going to have to go strictly swim upstream.
Right.
Instead of thinking, I just need to change it 1 or 2 degrees. When you change it 1 or 2 degrees, you're still going to end up in the ocean. That's my point. You're still going to end up dead. And so if you want to understand something, it's going to help you in the long run.
But so I guess along that vein, there's that verse, I think in 1 Corinthians where Paul talks about the fact that, hey, you can eat meat offered to idols because idols don't even exist. Like music in and of itself is not sinful, right? Even if its origin is wrong, music in and of itself is not sinful. So can't we use that medium to glorify God in it? Because it's just notes. It's just music.
Yeah, I see. That's where I just think that that's wrong. Music brings about a certain emotion, and the emotions aren't adiaphora. And so those are things that we need to really think about. The reason why we just don't hit random keys is because that's not music. People know when something is musical.
Yeah, yeah.
And so once we start playing something, people can tell, oh, this disturbs my heart, or this uplifts the heart.
Well, minor key action.
Well, minor key should be there so that eventually it can resolve, or to whatever degree you want it to resolve.
Yeah.
Depending on how good you are with your composition. And so to put it so reductively like that, I think that's the issue that people have.
I see. Okay.
And people are like, isn't just music? And the answer is no. Like there's good music, there's bad music, there's like uplifting music, there's music that's supposed to depress you. It's all there for a reason. And so when you put keys next to each other, it resonates with the soul. And what does that do? It can either bring you up or bring you down. It can put you left, it could put you right. I think it's a very powerful medium, and it should be taken as such. Like when Saul was possessed, or not possessed, but was tormented by a demon.
Harp.
It was David's music playing that lifted him up.
Yeah.
So music is a very powerful medium that can be used for good, but obviously it can be the opposite too.
Yeah, perhaps food and music is not a one-to-one. So I guess with all of this said, I'm a very action-driven person. Am I though?
I think you're in like some kind of midlife crisis.
Maybe, but I'm not midlife. I'm like a third, maybe.
Yeah, people say quarter life crisis. People say third life crisis.
Third is generous, maybe. Yeah, closer to mid. But I'm an action, like I want to know, okay, so what's the point? What can I do with this? So after hearing this, after understanding that, hey, maybe I need to know the origin of certain things. I need to know what it is that I'm consuming. I need to know whether this is something that's for my edification, or even if it's just something just stupidly enjoyable, I need to know that it is doing something, right? And I'm using time to do this, and so I need to know what I'm doing. If that is the case, like, what are some action items or thoughts that we can think through now practically as we've heard this to apply this truth? Because I don't think tomorrow people are going to just stop watching Korean dramas out of nowhere. Right.
Yeah.
I don't think all of a sudden tomorrow people are just going to not listen to Spotify and deactivate their account. So what are some practical ways or steps that we can continue to be sanctified even in our engagement with pop culture?
Well, let's go right to the Bible. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 13. It's a popular one for old people, for their kids and stuff. But I think,
people?
yeah, for the millennials and on, you might not be so familiar.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, which verse?
13.
13 reads, "And the Lord will make you the head and not the tail, and you shall only go up and not down if you obey the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you today, being careful to do them. And if you do not turn aside from any of the words that I command you today, to the right hand or to the left, to go after other gods to serve them."
It's from a bigger passage, and
Yeah.
this is, again, if you're in our praise team, you would have heard some of it, but I think we're going to wait till May. But anyway, I want Christians to especially be the head, not the tail, when it comes to society. I want you as a Christian to lead the way in terms of showing people what is good, what is true, what is beautiful, showing people what good order is, and by setting an example, being a salt and light to the world, okay? And so has everything to do with living out the gospel and being that kind of gospel light to people. I want people to do that instead of just being swept up by the culture. I want us to not just engage in culture to whatever degree and then discern whether it's good or bad. Is it good to wear apple bottom jeans? I want us to lead the culture. I want the next J.S. Bach to come out from the church.
That's going to be tough.
And I want us to make the culture. I want us to influence the culture for good.
Yeah.
There is a reason why there was, the Dark Ages and the Enlightenment and then the Baroque period. And there's a reason why these periods came, because in one part, it was the culture dictating and then society going down into a deep, deep darkness. Whereas when you want the word of God to start dictating and then you start drawing what is good, what is beautiful, and these are in the arts, it's being promoted in the culture, then you see the culture being lifted up and the people also being lifted up. When God's people become the head of society, all of society becomes good. And that's why it's beneficial for you to be the leader. That's why I have a problem with the whole TikTok dance, because it didn't come from the church. And I get it. Not everything good directly has to come from the church. But I think it's a problem that nothing comes from the church now. The church leads in nothing. That's a problem. No creativity, no arts. And the arts that come out in the very end. I get it. But no intellectual properties coming out. No intellectual engagement is coming out. That's what we have to start doing. When people are like, well, why do I need to know apologetics? No one wants to do apologetics anymore because no one wants to engage their minds in even the deep things of God or philosophy. The love of knowledge isn't there and things like that. Love of wisdom isn't there. So we got to turn back to that. So my question to you and to all the people that are even listening is, what excites you? And if nothing excites you, that's a problem. Because that's not what you have been called to do. You haven't been called to just sit there or to be washed away by the culture. You've been there. You've been called to be the head, not the tail, because you are called to obey God. When you obey God, you will naturally influence others in your obedience to God. So if you're stagnant in life, look at your life. Are you obeying God? Are you following His will? Are you doing the things that God has commanded you to do? And if you are, you will start to, not only engage with culture, you'll start to influence that culture. And that's what I really want for us, especially the listeners of the DCP.
So would you say that you lean more one kingdom?
Yeah, we won't get into the spheres of influence here, but it really confused Brian when I went over the spheres of influence. We could do some Kuiperian stuff later, but yeah, one of the things that we want to be able to do, though, that's obviously just a very basic of Christianity, is people look to the church as a city on a hill.
Yep.
That's what we have been called to be.
Yep.
And so people should look to the city on a hill because that's where you could hear the gospel. That's where salvation is being preached and proclaimed.
Thank you. I think that's really helpful. I think that's a good place to pause for us. I think that's helpful because, as we engage with pop culture, I don't think people really think, to be honest. I think a lot of times when people, do watch stuff or play stuff or, I don't know, record stuff, it's not really, we don't really think about it. We just do it because it's the thing to do. We just do it because we're on the toilet.
See,
we just do it because...
I don't think that's, I think you're right. People have convinced themselves that, but I don't think that's the truth.
Yeah.
Because I think that once you engage in Baal worship, once you engage in the worshiping of the calf, it's just pop culture. It's what everyone does. I don't want to think about it. People are just doing it. But in the end, what ends up happening is you hate the things of God. So you think that this is just something that is just, normal. Every normal person's doing it. It's just something that people do. Rap music is great. I don't have to engage in any thought like that. Oh, you think you're so cool because you listen to Bach and you look down on me because I listen to rap? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying because you don't engage in that thought, then everyone against you will start to hate.
Yeah.
People that are not worshiping the calf, you'll start to hate them. People that are not worshiping Baal, you'll start to hate them. You want to kill them. Especially you will, look at Jezebel. Once Elijah killed all those prophets and he owned them because God sent fire down to lick up even the water of that altar, Jezebel didn't go, wow, that was awesome. We should change culture. She said, I'm going to kill Elijah no matter what.
Yeah.
No matter what it takes. I'm going to kill this guy. That's what happens when you are fully immersed and you're just going with the wave because that wave is against God. That's what I want us to be careful about. Because once you start to adopt it, you hate the things of God. So let's say you are really into this dance thing and you're like regular principle, you prissy Christians who think you know so much better than us, all those things, right?
Yeah.
We're going to do our little dance number because that's what brings the people in the doors and that's what glorifies God and blah, blah, blah. You have all this reasoning and rationale to do it. When someone goes against you, guess what? You hate them. You hate them more even than the sinful nature in man. You hate that so much. Like, I hate you. You are the Pharisee that Jesus talked about. I hate you.
Yeah.
And you hate people like that. And that's what I'm saying. That's what happens. And this is what we even have to be careful. You can't hate people in the church. You gotta love the people in the church. And if people are wrong in the church, you gently guide them out of their error. You try to show them the error of their ways. And if you disagree, then we engage in that dialogue, maybe debate even, but you don't hate them.
Yeah.
I don't hate people that do a little dance number in their churches. I just want to show them that might not be the best thing for them to do. In fact, that might be a really bad thing. And Brian is more on the side of, I think that's just evil. But we still want to engage in that conversation. But if you come back to us and say, I hate you, you're just a bunch of stinking Pharisees, you're not even real Christians, like, whoa, bro, we're just trying to say that this is what's in the word, and you won't even engage with us. You just go to straw man, and then you go to, the personal attacks, right?
Yeah.
And so if that's what it is, then I can't see that being much different from those that worship Baal and killed those that didn't worship Baal in the end, or those that worship the calf and did not want to worship the true God.
Brian has not only turned his back on the dance community, he has since been persecuting the dance community. And, I don't know if it's his back or whatever it is.
I don't think he's persecuting the dance community.
Like, he was the golden child.
He does nothing of the sort.
He was the golden child, but now, ever since his back stuff, it's like, if you can't join him, just persecute him. It's been his motto.
Yeah, but what we don't want to engage in, again, is straw man and ad hominem. We don't want to engage in that, especially
Nope.
when it comes to people that are brothers and sisters. If the gospel is being preached and you really want to go to the regulative principle and want to worship God as He dictates in the Word, then we should be able to engage in dialogue, and it should be on friendly and good terms. But when you start to engage in ad hominem, being like, I hate you guys are terrible, you guys are evil, that's a problem for me. I think that's an issue. You don't do that. Be very careful. And I'm saying this to our people.
Yep.
I get it. People are going to do it to us. That's fine. But you don't do that. Don't do that. And don't strawman anybody. I would rather you steel man the argument and then, rip it apart piece by piece.
Yeah. I think this is a good reminder for us as a lot of us are fasting, and a lot of us have been thinking, this culture, like how do we take part in it? How do we engage in it? I think this is a good reminder for us, and Philippians 4:8 surely is a good reminder for us as well. Any other comments, Pastor Eugene, as we wrap up this episode today?
Oh, no Q&A? I was saving space for that. Have we spent too much time?
We haven't received any.
I have a question for you then.
Oh,
We have a few minutes, right?
no,
We have a few
please,
minutes.
no.
I have a question for you.
Please, no.
Is that okay? Why are people around us so liberal? Why do you think so, Sam?
I think a lot of it has to do with the city. Cities and big education centers tend to be the forefront of liberal ideology. I don't know why I said it like that, but it tends to be the case. College towns and big cities where a lot of people gather, a lot of quote unquote elites gather, a lot of ideas are shared, ideologies are shared. And right now, I think a lot of the liberal movement is steered by education, centers of education and big cities. And so I think that's why we're around that area. That's why I think we're kind of in that place. The more people there are, the more ideas that gather. And I think a lot of times people tend to compromise. So perhaps that's why in this area, the tri-state area in particular, probably Boston too. Boston is dumb liberal. Sorry, Boston's very liberal. So maybe that's why. Big cities.
Boston is very liberal, especially these days. Even if you attend like a conservative church in Boston, you're not as conservative as
No.
another Christian anywhere else outside of Boston.
it's tough.
That's how liberal Boston is.
Yeah. Like LA, SF, Boston, New York, all very, very liberal cities.
Yeah, I would say that. I think in the liberal cities, even if you consider yourself a conservative, you're not as conservative as people
No.
anywhere outside of the city.
Like Alabama or something.
That might be something worth looking into.
Yeah.
It'll be a fun little thought experiment you could do by yourself.
Oh, by myself.
Yeah.
Okay. I was hoping we would like travel the states or something and find out.
I mean, the best food are in the cities.
So might be a hot take. I don't know. This episode is kind of like hot in general. Hotty. There is no good Mexican food in New York City. I have never had good Mexican food in New York City. I don't know what it is. We also don't have good pho in New York City.
I like the great burrito in Edgewater.
Oh, that's tough for me.
You don't like it?
No.
You've tried it.
Yeah, I've
You
tried it
tried the
multiple
fish
times.
tickle?
Yeah,
Oh, you don't like it?
yeah.
Wife and I like it. Maybe we haven't really tried good Mexican food.
Like San Diego Mexican food is it's crazy.
I think I did the fish tacos that either you or your brother told me about in LA. Maybe it was your brother. No, it was you, right?
In LA,
There was a fish taco truck that comes.
it's probably my brother.
Yeah. That was actually pretty spectacular.
Yeah, the Mexican food in LA and Southern California in general is delicious.
When
But
people go to Texas, though,
Tex-Mex.
I always tell them to get Tex-Mex. They're like, oh, I can't wait to get barbecue. I was like, barbecue's okay. Like, really, it was so good. I was like, brisket was so good. And I was like, it's okay. But Tex-Mex, that's why you want to go
Yeah.
to Texas to eat the Tex-Mex.
You know, I've never had barbecue where I was like, this is the best. I feel like every single barbecue spot I've been to after the age of like 22 has been just so mediocre. And I can't figure out why. Maybe I have this weird idealistic standard for barbecue that I've never even tasted.
Maybe this summer I'll make you some ribs,
Oh, maybe.
a little dry rub.
But you need that cedar wood smoke.
I Yeah, sure. You cook it for 3 hours. Boom. Right off the bone. But yeah. Yeah, a little good experiment you could do.
So why do I hate liberal people?
No. I didn't. I re-asked it. Now you have to put it in. I re-asked it so that we could put in the question.
Ah.
But maybe we could have a question. Maybe we could have some feedback from the people. Why do you think, if you were listening, you can answer and tell Sam, why do you think, or write to us a podcast.
Please do. Please. I'm like, yeah.
Why do you think the best food are in the most liberal places?
Why do you think the best coffee
Nope. Don't finish.
are made? That's a great question. I would like some more like
Engagement.
engagement.
You should engagement farm.
What does that mean?
Engagement farming is when you like say something really out there just so that you get a reaction from people.
Potato.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying this.
Oh.
If the episode is spicy, that's when we get a lot more engagement. That's when like Catholics will start to do the barfing emojis on
Chicken
our,
jockey.
on our Instagram and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
that's true.
So maybe a little bit of that won't hurt.
And I think I would love to hear what theological questions people may have. Just would love to. I mean, the past sermon, a couple of sermons have been very, very dense theologically. And so I would just love to hear questions that people may have regarding theology, theological topics, and that we can discuss here on this podcast as well. So that'd be very, very fun. All right, well, we hope you had fun. See ya. We thank you for listening to this episode of the Dear Church podcast. Join us next week. We hope and pray. I'll be here. I will be here.
We'll see.
Unless the baby comes on Thursday or Friday.
Yeah.
If that is the
That's
case,
a big possibility because that's when babies do.
it's definitely possible. Yeah, almost probable. We hope and pray that this has been a blessing in your ears. Fight the good fight. Finish the race. Keep the faith. Peace.
Peace.